Well, thank you for joining me today. And today, I'm going to mix it up a little bit and create like a little fantasy, let's say. And this fantasy is going to be broken up into three parts. So, and the first part is going to be going back in time. And it's going to be leading up to what we have going on today. Okay? But like I said, this is a fantasy. So this is just the fantasy that was created. So, but let's jump right in. Okay. So we're going to go way back in time. So back in a time where everything was possible, everything was mastered. It was a very spiritual time at this time. So the atom was mastered. You could do gene splicing, cloning. Everything was literally mastered at this point, right? So during this time frame, they still needed manual labor. And of course, with so much advancement, only people could do what they needed to be done. So there's like, okay, you know what? Let's create, we have mastered so much, we can create a perfect being that is going to do our bidding, right? So, and it was a lot of work. So the being had to be strong and powerful and this, that, and the other. So, okay. So they created this being, and we're going to call this is the first being, when it's called the first being Alpha. Okay. So they created this first being Alpha. Now, Alpha was just like the bomb. Like Alpha could pull men and women. Like Alpha had crazy magnetism, like crazy attraction, right? Now, it could have something to do with the fact that Alpha happens to be a hermaphrodite. Now, hear me out. Now, Alpha had 50% male organs and then the 50% female organs. So it literally was like a true hermaphrodite, had both organs, sexual organs, right? With that being said, coming automatically like that means Alpha was equally balanced. Alpha was perfectly balanced within the masculine energy and the feminine energy, right? So this means Alpha was straight up fully connected, tapped into everything. So that's why Alpha was just so alluring, and everybody wanted a part of Alpha. The animals couldn't get enough Alpha. Alpha could sing. Alpha could dance. Alpha could cook. Alpha could do everything. So with this much power and this much attention, obviously they knew, okay, we created the perfect being, but the too perfect, because Alpha is not going to be doing our bidding. We know that for sure. So it's like, okay, you know what? We're going to have to go back to the drawing board. So what they did is they came up with the idea of, okay, we already can see that the being cannot be balanced. And obviously, if we create another being like Alpha, they're going to be balanced. So let's create two separate beings. We're going to create a man and a woman. So they're still going to have that masculine and feminine principle, but that's going to confuse them with them being in separate bodies. With it being in one body, it's all there. But separate bodies, it's going to confuse them having both principles within them unless they master them, right? So they did this, and they noticed when they created these beings that as long as these beings did not master the master being balanced within masculine and feminine principles, that these beings would just easily do their biddings just as they wanted. Now, the problem was when these beings started to master their masculine and feminine principles within. So then they had the same problem that they had with Alpha, right? But then they found out that they created an even bigger problem than Alpha, because when the man mastered his masculine and feminine principle, and then the woman mastered her masculine and feminine principle, and those two came together, they created more energy together than Alpha even created. So it was even more of a problem. So they realized that it was crucial that these these men and these women could not be balanced. So as time progressed and they kept dabbling and testing different versions of these people, how to essentially keep them out of whack and out of balance, they pretty much, as time went on, got to a time frame where it's now 2025. And with that, we'll end part one, and we'll pick up with part two tomorrow. So if this is something that you find interesting, I ask that you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next message.